My sister ridiculed me at a family dinner, saying I never be as pretty as her and that I'd die alone. She didn't know I'd just been scouted by a modeling agency. Now she's begging me to get her an audition. Sorry, they're not looking for mean girls. It happened just last Sunday around 7 p.m. at our parents' house. Sunday dinners are a tradition in our family, a time when everyone sits around our worn oak dining table and shares a meal. Usually it's fairly mundane. Mom asks about our week, Dad cracks a lame joke about the overcooked roast, and my older sister, Jessica, finds subtle ways to brag about herself. But this dinner turned into a scene straight out of a reality TV meltdown. I remember gripping my fork so hard my knuckles turned white. We had just passed the mashed potatoes around when Dad casually asked if I was seeing anyone. Before I could even swallow my sip of water to answer, Jessica let out a dramatic snort. All eyes shifted to her as she smirked in my direction. I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. I just knew she was gearing up to say something nasty. Years of experience had taught me that much. Are you kidding, Dad? She'll never be as pretty as me, let alone find a boyfriend, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm and fake concern. Boom. There it was, loud and clear in front of Mom, Dad, and even our poor grandma who was visiting and nearly choked on her green bean casserole. The words hung in the air, heavy and stinging. My face went hot as if I'd been slapped. I forced a laugh, hoping to deflect the hurt. Real nice, Jess, I managed to say, my voice a shaky mix of sarcasm and pain. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribcage. I glanced at Mom, who looked down at her plate, and Dad, whose brows were furrowed in concern. Grandma muttered something like, "Now, that wasn't nice," under her breath. But Jessica was just warming up. She flicked her perfectly highlighted hair over her shoulder and continued, doubling down. "I mean, look at her," she announced to the table, as if I wasn't even there. Her manicured hand gestured up and down at me. I suddenly became hyper-aware of myself, my simple floral sundress, my hair in a low ponytail, the single tiny pimple on my chin I tried to cover up. Even on her best day, maybe she'd reach cute at most. But gorgeous. Like me? Ha! Let's be real. I swear you could have heard a pin drop. My stomach clenched. I wanted to shrink until I disappeared under the table. I caught Dad's eye. He opened his mouth to protest, "Jessica, that's enough," but she steamrolled right over him. "And die alone?" Well, Jess gave an exaggerated shrug, picking up her wine glass. If by some miracle someone did date her, they'd probably leave once they got a look at me. I'm doing her a favor spelling it out now. She took a sip of her wine with a grin like she'd just told the funniest joke in the world. I felt a hot tear escape and roll down my cheek before I could stop it. I was mortified, angry, hurt, and embarrassed all at once. Jessica's words were slicing into me, and she looked gleeful doing it. My face burned. I could only imagine how pathetic I looked to everyone, sitting there getting trashed by my own sister. Mom's chair screeched as she jumped to her feet. "Jessica Lynn." Mom snapped. "Oh, full name." She was pissed. "How can you say that to your sister? Apologize, now." Jessica rolled her eyes, still smirking. "What? It's just a joke," she said lazily, not even looking at me, still addressing the others. As if calling me ugly and unlovable in front of everyone was casual chit-chat. My hands were trembling on my lap. A joke. Right. Hilarious. Time seemed to slow. My vision blurred with tears I refused to fully let fall. I wanted to throw my water in her face or scream or just run away. Part of me did want to scream the secret I'd been keeping, throw it right back at her. "You have no idea what you're talking about. I literally got scouted by a modeling agency, you idiot." Can you imagine her face if I had? But I didn't. Another tear slipped out, and I angrily wiped it away. Instead of lashing out with what I knew, as satisfying as it would have been, I pushed my chair back with a loud scrape against the hardwood floor. The sound cut through the silence and everyone's eyes snapped to me. My throat felt tight, words stuck in it like glue. "I've lost my appetite," I mumbled, barely holding my voice steady, and I bolted upstairs to my room before I completely broke down. Behind me, I could hear Mom laying into Jessica. Her voice was loud and furious, and Jessica actually yelling back in her defense. Something like, "Why am I the bad guy for telling the truth?" Dad was sternly saying her name, and I think Grandma just kept tootaying in shock. I couldn't make it all out and I didn't care. I just needed to get out of there. I slammed my bedroom door and finally let the sobs rip from my chest that I'd been holding in. My hands were shaking with adrenaline and hurt. Through the floor, I still heard the chaos downstairs, Mom shouting, Dad trying to calm them, Jessica screeching something in her own defense. It was a full-blown family blow-up down there. And the whole time, her words kept replaying in my head on an endless, cruel loop: never be as pretty as her, die alone, never as pretty, die alone. I felt sick to my stomach, like I might actually throw up from the humiliation. It wasn't just what she said, it was how delighted she looked while saying it, like hurting me was her favorite sport. This was beyond the usual snide remarks, it was downright soul-crushing. I collapsed onto my bed, mascara-stained tears soaking into my pillow. My chest heaved as I tried to catch my breath. That's when I glanced over at my desk and saw the edge of a business card peeking out from under yesterday's mail. A fresh wave of emotion hit me, but this time it wasn't pure pain, it was a mix of hurt and a twisted sense of triumph. Because printed on that little card was the logo and name of a modeling agency. My modeling agency. The one that scouted me just 2 days ago. She didn't know. She had no idea that the very person she was tearing down had, out of nowhere, been given a chance to do something she'd only ever dreamed about. Through my tears, I felt the ghost of a smile tug at my lips. I was still shaking with anger and pain, but now I also had this secret, shining validation. In my head I whispered to myself the one thing I couldn't say out loud downstairs: "You're wrong, Jess. So wrong." To really understand why my sister's words cut so deep, you need to know a bit about us and our history. So, let's rewind. My name is Emily, M to my friends. I'm 20, just finishing up my sophomore year of college. Jessica is 22 and recently graduated. We grew up in a mid-sized city in Illinois called Brookdale, one of those everyone knows everyone kind of towns. And from as early as I can remember, my sister has been the pretty one. I don't just mean in our family, I mean in every room she walks into. Picture a blonde, blue-eyed, cheerleader type with a radiant smile and an hourglass figure. That's Jessica. Growing up, she was the golden girl. At school she was a literal homecoming queen, twice. She did pageants as a kid, mom's idea, fueled by how naturally gorgeous Jess was, of course. She has this magnetic presence, people just gravitate to her, teachers, classmates, guys, you name it. By age 13, she had older boys from high school offering to carry her books and buy her lunch. Meanwhile, at 13 I was the shy girl with braces and glasses, rocking awkward frizzy brown hair and a closet full of nerdy graphic tees and ill-fitting jeans. I was firmly planted in her shadow. I'm not saying I was Quasimodo or anything, but next to her I may as well have been invisible. And unfortunately, Jessica loved to remind me of my place any chance she got. She wasn't always as blatantly vicious as she was at that dinner, but the digs were constant. She'd say things like, "Oh, don't worry Em, guys like smart girls too," with a fake pity smile whenever I lamented that no one asked me to school dances. If I ever dared to dress up a little or wear makeup, she'd make a face and go, "Is that what you're wearing?" Bold choice. The tone always dripped with that "yikes, what a loser" implication. Those little comments stung, but I swallowed them and tried to stay out of her way. By high school, it only got worse. We overlapped at Brookdale High for 2 years, her junior and senior, my freshman and sophomore. Those were the hardest years of my life. The hallways were basically her kingdom, and I was either invisible or Jessica's weird little sister. I remember once I had a crush on a boy in my math class, and when Jess caught wind of it, she literally stole him out from under me. She flirted with him shamelessly one day at lunch within earshot of me. By the end of the week he was following her around like a puppy and had completely forgotten I existed. She dumped him 2 weeks later, of course, he was just a toy. When I got upset, she laughed and said, "Oops, sorry. How could I know you liked him? It's not my fault you never make a move." That was her apology. It's like she viewed everything as a competition that she had to win, especially when it came to looks or popularity. If I got a new haircut, she'd show up the next day with a salon-style do that made mine look homely. If I finally cleared up my acne and felt good about myself, she'd suddenly discover a new skincare routine and somehow shine even brighter, making sure all eyes were back on her. She was perpetually one-upping me in every arena where I might get a sliver of attention. What's really messed up is that for a long time, I believed her. I figured she was right. I wasn't the pretty one, and I never would be. I told myself I'd better accept it and focus on other things. And I did try. I threw myself into my studies, joined the art club, basically hid in the library whenever I could. I'm proud to say I got great grades and earned a scholarship to a good college, but even that victory, she managed to sour. I remember when I got the acceptance letter to my first choice university. I was over the moon and Mom and Dad were thrilled. The first thing Jessica said was, "Congrats, glad you got something going for you. We can't all be model material, so at least you'll have a career." Delivered with that same sweet-ass sugar smile that felt like a knife twist. I laughed it off at the time, but it hurt. We can't all be model material. That's rich coming from her, because guess what Jessica always wanted to be? Yup, a model. It was her dream, or rather Mom's dream that she latched onto. Like I said, she did the child beauty pageants and later some teen modeling competitions. And to be fair, she won her share of tiny plastic trophies. When she was 16, Mom drove her to Chicago for an open call audition at a modeling agency. I tagged along, stuck in a waiting room all day surrounded by leggy teenage glamazons and their pushy moms, feeling like a total goblin. In the end, Jess didn't get signed, some polite excuse about her being a tad short for runway at 5'5 inch. I remember the car ride home, she cried angry tears the whole way, and mom had to buy her a fancy milkshake to console her, reassuring her that she was still the prettiest girl in Brookdale, which was probably true. That rejection stung, but it didn't humble her for long. She pivoted to focusing on social media modeling after that. She'd rope me into being her photographer for these elaborate Instagram shoots, posing on the hood of Dad's car, twirling in a field at golden hour, all that cliche influencer in training stuff. If I didn't get the angle just right, she'd snap, "Ugh, do you even know how to take a photo? It's not that hard, Emily." Real sisterly bonding time, let me tell you. She gained a decent local following on Instagram, a few thousand followers, mostly thirsty dudes from nearby colleges and some random creeps. Sometimes local boutiques would give her free outfits to model in posts, like a low-rent influencer. And of course, every like and heart eye emoji comment she got just fueled her ego further. She'd flaunt her phone in my face, showing me some guy's comment calling her fire and say, "See? I still got it." Meanwhile, my Instagram was sitting at like 200 followers consisting of actual friends and a bunch of bots, where the only comments I ever got were my bestie hyping up my art sketches. I mostly tried to stay out of her way and out of her spotlight. The more attention she got, the more she seemed to look down on me. Our parents, for their part, didn't really help the situation. Mom adores Jess, don't get me wrong, she loves me too, but I think she lived vicariously through Jess's pageant and popularity life. She'd scold Jess when she caught her being outright mean to me, "Jessica, be nice to your sister," but in the next breath she'd say to me, "Honey, why don't you let your sister take you shopping for some prettier clothes? You'll feel more confident." Dad, on the other hand, is a quiet, academic type. He'd just shake his head at Jessica's antics and tell me, "Ignore her, she'll grow out of it." He hated confrontation, so he never really put his foot down to stop her cruelty. By the time I left for college, I was relieved to finally get some distance. Jess stayed in Brookdale, attending a local college while living at home. Mom and Dad couldn't afford to send her away to some dream school, not after all the money that went into her pageants and stuff. I went to a university a couple hours away. It was my chance to be something other than the other sister. And it mostly worked. In college, I made friends who only knew me, not my sister's manufactured legacy. I even dated a guy for a little while who thought I was beautiful and funny and all that good stuff. He'd never even met Jess, so there was no comparison, no competition. We broke up amicably after a few months, but that's beside the point. The point is, someone saw me for me. I wish I could say being away from my sister magically fixed all my confidence issues. It helped, but I was still carrying years of self-esteem baggage. I'd come home for holidays and breaks and inevitably get sucked back into the old dynamic. Walk in the door and it'd be, "Oh, you're wearing that sweater," as a greeting from Jess. Or she'd offhandedly mention how many guys had asked for her number recently, just to highlight that I had none. It was like nothing had changed. Around her, I still felt like that awkward, inferior kid. Alright, now let's fast forward to literally last week. Spring semester had just ended, and I was back home for the summer. I picked up a part-time job at a cute clothing boutique downtown to make some spending money. One afternoon, I was on my way to a shift, feeling unusually good about myself. I'd put on this new green wrap dress I bought with my own paycheck, and I actually took time to curl my usually unruly hair. For once, I looked in the mirror and thought, "Hey, I look pretty cute." It was a rare and nice feeling. Since I was a bit early for work, I stopped by a trendy little cafe near the boutique to grab a latte. And that's when it happened, the moment that still feels like a dream. The cafe was bustling with the morning rush. I was waiting in line, scrolling through my phone, when a tall woman with a sleek black blazer approached me out of the blue. She had this confident, professional air about her. "Excuse me," she said, a friendly smile on her face, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but have you ever considered modeling?" I almost snorted out my coffee. I genuinely thought I was being pranked. I looked around for hidden cameras. Then I realized she was serious. I think I blurted out something like, me? No, not really." I could feel my cheeks burning because inside I was sure she had mistaken me for someone else. Her smile widened and she handed me a business card. She introduced herself as a scout for a well-known modeling agency. I won't name it here, but trust me, it's legit. I googled. She told me they were in town scouting for fresh faces and that I caught her eye. Apparently, I have a great look. I'm tall, thank you Dad, for my 5'8" height, with strong features and beautiful clear skin. I nearly did a double take at the skin comment. I've battled acne scars for years, but hey, maybe all that water in those college years of less stress paid off. I was in total disbelief, stammering something about how I've never modeled before. She chuckled and said that didn't matter. They were holding a low-key scouting event at the downtown Marriott the next day, basically an open call, and she encouraged me to come by. Just to see if it's for you, she said. She scribbled her personal cell number on the back of the card and told me to text her to confirm if I'd be there. Bring a swimsuit and heels. We'll take a few digitals. No pressure, she added. She left to approach another girl in line. Apparently I wasn't the only potential model getting coffee that day, and I just stood there in a daze, card in hand, heart pounding. I forgot all about the latte I was supposed to order. I beelined to the restroom and immediately called up Google on my phone to verify this wasn't some scam. Lo and behold, the agency was real, the scout's name checked out on LinkedIn and everything. Legit, with offices in New York, LA, Chicago. My hands started shaking as it sank in. I got scouted. Me, the girl who was always less pretty. I had to lean against the sink and just breathe for a second because I thought I might faint from the shock and excitement. That whole shift at the boutique, I was floating. I'm sure I freaked a few customers out with my giant goofy grin. My coworker Dina was like, "Girl, what's with you today? You're positively glowing." I ended up spilling the beans to her in the stockroom, and she practically screamed and attacked me with a hug. "I always told you you're gorgeous, Em." Finally, someone with sense sees it, she yelled, making me laugh and blush. It was true, she and my best friend have tried to tell me for years that I underestimate my looks. For once, I actually let myself believe they might be right. The next day, I went to that scouting event. I was nervous as hell walking into the hotel. They had a conference room set up with a simple backdrop and camera, and a couple of agency people were there along with the scout. I signed in, filled out a form, and then it was a whirlwind. They took my measurements, turns out I'm 5'8.5", didn't know about the half, had me slip into the bikini I brought behind a screen, and then took some basic snapshots of me in the swimsuit and then in my dress. It was the most bizarre, surreal 5 minutes of my life, standing there trying to remember how to smile naturally and not look like a deer in headlights. Before I left, one of the agents chatted with me and said they were very interested in my look. They asked if I'd be willing to come to their Chicago office in a couple of weeks for a more formal test shoot. I think I managed not to faint as I agreed and took their information packet. As soon as I was out of the hotel and in the parking lot, I let out the squeal scream of joy that I'm sure scared a few pigeons away. It was official-ish. I had one foot in the door of something I never in a million years thought I'd experience. Naturally, the first person I called was my best friend, Mara. The second she picked up, I screeched, "I got scouted," and she started screaming too. We probably sounded insane. Mara has been by my side through all the crap with Jess over the years, so she was ecstatic and not the least bit surprised. "I always knew you were a freaking star," she said. Next stop, Vogue magazine cover, baby. We laughed until we cried. It felt so good to share the news with someone who genuinely has my back. I hadn't told my parents yet. Part of me wanted to run home and spill everything, but another part wanted to wait. I was still riding the high, but I was also nervous. What if I told them and then the Chicago test shoot didn't pan out? I'd look foolish. And, let's be real, I was absolutely savoring the thought of how Jessica would react. I kind of wanted to keep it my little secret for a bit, like a treasure only I knew about, because God knows she'd try to tarnish it somehow if she knew. So, aside from Mara and Dina, I kept my mouth shut about it. 2 days later, Sunday rolled around, the infamous dinner night. I had the agency's business card tucked safely in my room and an email in my inbox with the details for the Chicago shoot. I wasn't necessarily planning to announce my news that night, but I figured I'd tell Mom and Dad soon. Maybe privately, after dinner. I certainly didn't expect dinner would implode the way it did. But sitting there across from Jess, holding in that amazing secret, I was a weird mix of elated and anxious. It was like having a golden ticket in my pocket while a thief circles around eyeing my wallet. I should have known something would set her off. And oh boy, did it. Dad's innocent question about my dating life was all it took. You saw the blow-by-blow of what went down. It was ugly and painful and pretty much the culmination of years of her torment. When I ran to my room that night, I was devastated, but I also had this tiny spark inside me, knowing that in a way, I'd already won. She just didn't know it yet. I fantasized, even as I cried, about how she would react when she found out. A big part of me wanted to march back down, tear-streaked face and all, and throw that business card at her smug face. But I didn't. I cried myself to sleep clutching that card instead, resolving that I'd have my moment on my own terms. I woke up the next morning with puffy eyes and a raw throat. It was Monday, and I had an early shift at the boutique. Honestly, I almost called out sick, but then I thought about how hiding in my room wouldn't solve anything. Plus, I didn't want to give Jessica the satisfaction of knowing how deeply she'd hurt me. The house was quiet when I went downstairs. Mom had taken Grandma back to her place first thing, Dad was already at work, and Jessica, who knew? Probably hiding out to avoid Mom's wrath, or maybe she left early to meet a friend. Fine by me. I wasn't ready to face her anyway. I grabbed a granola bar and my keys, but then I noticed something on the kitchen counter that stopped me in my tracks, that business card. The one from the modeling agency. I knew I hadn't left it there. I'd left it tucked under some papers on my desk. My heart started thudding. Next to the card was a sticky note in Jessica's handwriting. "We need to talk. J. Oh no. She knew. My brain went into panic mode, doing mental gymnastics to figure out how she'd gotten the card. Did it fall out of my purse last night? Did Mom maybe go in my room to check on me and find it? However it happened, one thing was clear: Jessica had seen it, Googled it. She's nosy and resourceful like that, and put two and two together. She knew I'd been scouted. My stomach flipped between anxiety and anger. On one hand, I hated that she found out before I was ready to tell anyone. On the other, I almost relished the thought of her shock. Serves her right. Still, I wasn't about to stick around and chat with her right then. I snatched the card and sticky note, shoved them into my purse, and headed out the door to work without so much as a peep upstairs. Let her stew for now. At the boutique, I was a distracted mess. I kept replaying the dinner in my mind, mixing with new imaginings of how Jessica reacted when she discovered my secret. I pictured her scrolling through that agency's website, jaw on the floor, maybe throwing her phone across the room in jealousy or disbelief. The thought was perversely satisfying. After all the crap she'd pulled, the shoe was on the other foot now, wasn't it? By lunchtime, my phone was blowing up with texts all from Jessica. The first one said, "We need to talk ASAP." Then, "I'm sorry about last night. I went too far, but I found something out." Then, "Emily, is it true? Modeling agency," followed by about 10 question marks. And finally, "We really need to talk. Call me, please." I didn't reply. Part of me wanted to text back a snarkio, "So now you care," but I held off. I needed to cool down and gather my thoughts. This was completely new territory. Jessica never, ever apologized or begged me to talk. The fact that her attempt at saying sorry was immediately coupled with bringing up something she found out told me everything I needed to know. She was sorry because she'd realized I suddenly had something she wants. I took a few deep breaths in the stockroom to calm my nerves. My poor manager probably thought I was having an anxiety attack, which wasn't entirely wrong. It was sinking in that a confrontation was inevitable. I texted her back finally, keeping it simple: "Can't talk, I'm at work." She responded within seconds, "Fine. After work then. Come find me, please." The use of please both shocked and amused me. Queen Jess was not used to pleading. I drove home after my shift with my heart in my throat, mentally prepping for the conversation. When I got home, her car wasn't in the driveway. Mom was in the living room knitting or reading, and she gave me a worried look. "Everything okay, hon?" she asked softly, probably referring to the dinner drama. I forced a small smile and said, "I'm all right, Mom." I wasn't ready to debrief with her yet, and she seemed to understand, nodding and letting me be. In my bedroom, I found another note slipped under my door. This one was longer, and my sister's loopy handwriting was unmistakable. It said, "I'm so sorry about dinner. I was way out of line. I feel terrible. I don't want to fight. Also, I saw the card. I'm really happy for you, that's amazing. I have some experience with modeling stuff, you know, pageants and that open call I did. Maybe I can help you prepare? I'd love to give you some tips if you want. We could even make a girls' trip out of your shoot in Chicago. Really, I just want to be there for you. I miss us hanging out. Let's talk soon, okay? Love, Jess." Yeah, right. I read that note twice, and each time I got angrier. The saccharine tone, the sudden enthusiasm to help me, it made my skin crawl. It was so transparent that she was trying to insert herself into this situation. Into my situation. After years of treating me like trash, she now wanted to play supportive sister because I had something exciting going on. I didn't respond to the note. I didn't text her or go find her that afternoon either. I needed to do this face to face, and on my terms. Honestly, I also wanted her to sweat a little. Let her wonder if maybe I'd shut her out completely. That evening, I was in the kitchen reheating some leftover pasta for dinner. Mom and Dad had gone out to eat. Mom left me a text saying they'd be home later, possibly to give Jess and me space to talk alone. I was just about to take my bowl out of the microwave when I heard the front door and then Jessica's footsteps coming toward the kitchen. My heart rate kicked up, but I steeled myself. She walked in, looking a bit hesitant. That was new. She's usually bursting into rooms like she owns them. "Hey," she said softly. No smugness, no attitude. "Hey," I replied flatly, focusing on stirring my pasta. She hovered on the other side of the kitchen island. How was work? She ventured. Fine, I said shortly. I wasn't in the mood for small talk. We both knew why she was here. She sighed, realizing the chit-chat wasn't going to fly. Come on. Are you really going to give me the silent treatment? I'm trying to apologize here. I put down my fork and looked up at her. This was it. Okay. You want to talk? Talk. My voice was calmer than I expected, but firm. She took a deep breath. I was horrible to you at dinner. I'm sorry. I don't know what got into me. Her voice actually wavered. I saw her eyes glisten a little, like she might cry. In the past, that would have totally disarmed me, seeing my strong, bitch's sister on the verge of tears. But I wasn't going to let myself get sucked in so easily. I raised an eyebrow. You don't know? Really? Because it seems like being horrible to me is kind of your routine, Jess. She looked down, chewing her lip. I know. You're right. I've been a crappy sister. I guess I always felt like we were competing, and I wanted to win. That's so screwed up, I know. We're family, not rivals. A tear actually rolled down her cheek as she said this. She wiped it quickly. I've been jealous of you, you know, she added softly. I almost choked on air. Jealous? Of me? What on earth for? I genuinely couldn't fathom it. She gave a shaky little laugh, looking embarrassed. You're so smart, Em. You got that scholarship, you have a career path, you're talented with your art. I guess I felt like that was something I couldn't compete with, so I focused on looks, the one thing I had. And I overdid it. A lot. I was awful. I'm really sorry. She sounded sincere, and it threw me off. I hadn't expected an actual heartfelt admission. I didn't know what to say, so I just stayed quiet. I was processing the fact that she admitted to being jealous of me, that she called herself awful. It was kind of all I ever wanted to hear her say, but something still felt off. Maybe because it took her 22 years and me landing a modeling opportunity for her to say it. After a pause, Jess continued, now stepping a bit closer. When I found that card in your room, I was honestly shocked. At first I thought maybe it was fake or something, but I looked it up and, that's huge. I was excited for you, and I realized how wrong I've been. You getting scouted, it woke me up. You're gorgeous, and I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you weren't. I studied her face. She did look genuinely emotional, but I also knew my sister well enough that something else was likely mixed in with this apology. Okay, thank you for saying that, I said slowly. So you found the card, and now what? You want to help me pack my bags for Chicago or something? She perked up slightly, like I had opened a door. If you'd let me, yeah. I was serious in the note. I have some experience, you know, with posing and walking in heels and all that. I could show you some stuff so you feel more prepared. And I was thinking, maybe I could come with you. I mean, I could introduce you to some tips, help you navigate things. She was talking a bit fast. I still have that portfolio from when I did pageants, maybe I could show it to them. I held up my hand. Jess, what are you getting at? Just spit it out. My tone was cold. I knew where this was going, I just needed her to actually say it. She took a deep breath, and then, maybe you could talk to them about me? Or I could tag along to your shoot, and if there's an opportunity, I could audition or something. She rushed on, probably reading the look on my face. I know that sounds bad. I know it's your thing, and it's your thing. I'm not trying to take it from you, I swear. But modeling was my dream too. You know that. And if they liked you, they might like me. We could be like those sisters who both model. It could be something we do together, instead of competing. Wouldn't that be kind of amazing? There it was. The big ask. I felt a flare of anger in my chest, despite her plaintive tone. I took a moment to respond, trying to keep my voice level. You have got to be kidding me, I finally said, a humorless laugh escaping. After everything, you think I'm going to just bring you along and hand you an audition? This isn't a free-for-all, Jess. They chose me, not you. Her face fell, and she looked a bit desperate. I'm not saying it like that. I'm not trying to steal your thunder. I'm just asking if maybe you could ask them if they'd consider seeing me too, as a favor. As your sister. Please. The mighty Jessica was literally pleading with me, eyes wide, hands clasped together in front of her. A week ago, that would have been unthinkable. My heart was hammering. This was the moment. The big payoff of all the tension and years of mistreatment. I almost couldn't believe it was happening. I stared at her, probably looking a little crazy as I tried to sort out my feelings. Do you even hear yourself? I said, voice rising unconsciously. A favor? What have you ever done for me that I should do you a favor? She blinked in surprise at my harsh tone. I know I've been awful. I'm trying to make it right and. No, I cut her off sharply. No, you don't just get to suddenly play nice and reap the rewards of my hard work or luck or whatever you want to call it. This is my opportunity, Jess. Mine. I'm not going to risk screwing it up by bringing along my jealous sister who has made my life hell. You think I want you there, hovering while I try to do this? You'd probably sabotage me the first chance you get. She looked genuinely hurt. I wouldn't. I promise, I just want to support you. Bullshit, I snapped. The curse word made her flinch. I almost never swear at her. You want to support me? Where was that support my whole life, huh? You supported me by calling me ugly? By laughing at me, undermining me, stealing my crushes, making me hate myself? Spare me, Jessica. My eyes were stinging and my voice trembled with pent-up emotion. All you care about is that I got something you always wanted. And you can't stand that after all your efforts to keep me down, I'm the one who got it. Well, too bad. Tears were now openly rolling down her cheeks. I know I was horrible, she whispered, voice shaky. I know. And I'm sorry. I wish I could take it back. I was jealous and insecure and I took it out on you. But please, if you could just find it in you to give me one chance. I swear I won't ruin it. I need this. For a second, seeing my once so confident sister standing there broken and begging, I felt a pang of pity. But then I remembered every time I cried like that and she didn't care. She often smirked. She sometimes even filmed it to laugh at later. Yes, she did that once when I was 14, crying over being dateless to homecoming. She recorded me bawling and later showed her friends, saying I was practicing for an actress career. My sympathy burned away in an instant. I straightened my back and looked her dead in the eyes. No, Jess. My voice came out surprisingly calm and steady. I owe you nothing. Years of sorry wouldn't make up for what you did, and one apology sure as hell doesn't. I finally have something that's mine, and I'm not going to let you have it. She sniffled, her face crumpling. So that's it? You won't even try? You won't help your own sister out, even now? I could hear a mix of incredulity and anger in her voice. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Help my sister. Funny coming from you. Where was my sister when I needed help, or just a kind word? Where was my sister when I felt completely worthless? Oh right, she was cheering on my worthlessness. I shook my head, my anger crystallizing into resolve. I'm done, Jess. Done letting you use me as a stepping stool. I moved to walk past her, done with this conversation and feeling lighter for finally saying my piece. She stepped aside, but as I passed, she spat out, I guess I was right then. You really are a selfish bitch. The venom in her voice was sharp, but I heard the quiver underneath it. A last, desperate stab. I stopped in the doorway to the kitchen and turned back, feeling oddly calm. I met her red, puffy eyes with my own. No, I'm finally standing up for myself, I said quietly. And by the way, that modeling agency? They're not looking for mean girls. She blinked. Her mouth fell open, but no retort came. That shut her up good. We both knew exactly what I was implying, that she's a mean girl, and mean girls need not apply in my new life. I left her standing in the kitchen with that, and it was glorious. As I went upstairs, I heard her let out a frustrated scream and something that sounded like a plastic bowl being thrown, probably my pasta, but hey, small price to pay. I didn't even flinch. For the first time ever, her tantrum didn't scare me. It just felt like confirmation that I'd won. Back in my room, I collapsed on my bed, exhausted but relieved. I think I smiled for like a solid 5 minutes just staring at the ceiling, in disbelief that I finally said all those things. I finally put Jessica in her place. It took long enough, but I did it. It's been a few days since all that went down. Jessica has been avoiding me completely. No snide comments, no fake niceties, nothing. It's awkward, but also kind of peaceful. I think she's embarrassed and angry, which is fine by me. Mom asked why Jess has been so moody and quiet, and I just told her we had a sister fight but it's sorted out. No need to drag mom and dad into this any further. I got my closure, and I don't need parental referees messing it up. As for me, I'm gearing up for my test shoot in Chicago next week. I'm excited and nervous as hell. I've been practicing walking in heels and posing. Yes, I watched a bunch of Tyra Banks videos, don't judge. Regardless of how it goes, I feel like I've already grown so much from this whole experience. Just being wanted by an agency gave me a confidence boost that Jess's insults could never take away. And standing up to her gave me even more. Maybe I'll get a contract and this will be the start of a crazy new chapter in my life. Or maybe it'll just be a cool story I tell my kids someday about that one time I almost became a model. Either way, I'm going to give it my best shot, for me. The irony is not lost on me that the person who used to call me ugly now has to eat her words. I don't know if Jess will ever truly change or if we'll ever be close sisters braiding each other's hair and all that. Probably not. But I do know I'm not afraid of her anymore. She doesn't have power over me like she used to. So yeah, that's the saga. The ugly duckling had a swan moment, and the once perfect sister is now the one squirming on the sidelines. I'd be lying if I said it doesn't feel damn good. TLDR, my sister publicly humiliated me at a family dinner, telling me I'm ugly and will die alone. Little did she know I'd just been scouted by a modeling agency. When she found out, she tried to weasel in on my opportunity. I told her to shove it. Turns out the modeling agency isn't interested in mean girls like her. Karma's a bitch, and apparently so is she.